Well, hackerspaces are hackerspaces everywhere, so they're all unique. Hackerspaces all over the world are unique. Each are started by persons or people who are unique individuals, and they have their own ideas of what to do, what they'd like to focus on. In China, it's only been very recently that people in China can make money. And all over the world, people are really freaked out and obsessed with money. But in China, people are really freaked out and obsessed with money. They're fucking obsessed with money. And it's sometimes to the detriment of all else. Money is an amazing resource. We can do a lot of things with money, like buy food. It's kind of important to buy food. It's kind of important to have shelter, and we can buy shelter with money. We can buy things like laptops and cameras or whatever. But it's only one resource out of many, many, many. So obsessing on money is not necessarily a healthy thing for any individual, and it's certainly not for society. It's what you want to do that's important. So I just want to stress that a bit. What do you want to do with your time in your life? If you need some money for that, great. What are you willing to do to get that money? It's an important question to ask yourself. So it's not about the money, it's about what you want to do with any resource, including money. And what I see in China and all over the world, but even more here in China, is people obsessing just about money and not even thinking about what they might want to do with money once they get it, except make more. And it's very addictive, and this happens everywhere in the world, of course. So there's a whole bunch of money in China right now. There's a tech bubble here, just like there's a tech bubble in the United States, and there's a huge tech bubble about to burst in San Francisco. But while the bubble is not burst, people are giving money from the top down of government. The head of government has been pushing hackerspaces. He visited a hackerspace in January 2015, Premier Li, that is, visited a hackerspace in January 2015 right here in Shenzhen, Chaihua hackerspace, and he declared on CCTV and a lot of other media that hackerspaces are the future of China for education, for economic development, and even for personal development, personal well-being. And that's kind of amazing. And then since then, every bureaucrat across this whole country is feeling like they have to start a hackerspace. But they don't know what they are. So they think about Silicon Valley, which is a place where magic happens. And they think they've seen pictures, so they think they know what Silicon Valley buildings look like. And they want to build buildings that look like Silicon Valley buildings. And they think if they build Silicon Valley looking buildings, that magic will happen in them. Not going to work. But if those buildings are there and there's some money that people can use as resources to buy a few tools, community can form in those spaces, and people can collect and encourage each other to explore and try things, and hopefully find things that each person finds meaningful in what they do. That's possible. And I've seen that in many, many spaces. I think the best way for a hackerspace to form is when some people come together. They want community, they want to have a culture, they want a space where they can come and do all sorts of amazingly cool things, and they don't even know what those things might be yet. But people come together wanting to be in that community. But still, if those resources are available as they are, in the last 2 years since Premier Li visited Chaihua, thousands of hackerspaces opened in China, and in Shenzhen alone, there's hundreds. Why not make use of those spaces rather than have them empty and just have some investors who don't care about anything except getting rich? What if those spaces actually had some people in them with a few tools that will help them and their community explore and do things that are worthwhile? This is an opportunity now in China that doesn't exist anywhere else. So I would love to encourage people to make use of that, because it's an amazing resource that isn't available anywhere else. But if you go around China like I have, you'll see about 90% of places called hackerspaces, makerspaces, as big, beautiful, empty co-working spaces. kind of disheartening, but it's potential. Let's make use of that. But those other hackerspaces, they're like this. All unique, of course, but there's a whole bunch of unique, geeky, there's a whole bunch of introverted weirdo geeks in all of these spaces. And they're all helping each other learn and grow, all in their own unique ways, just like anywhere else in the world. It's really worth checking some others out if you're interested in, because they're all places that have at least one open night a week. Others, like Noisebridge, are always open and always free and always welcoming. Wherever you go, just search for wherever you're going, like San Francisco Hackerspace, you'll find a whole bunch. Or, I don't know, Ukraine Hackerspace, you'll find one. Whatever. And you'll meet new geeky friends and maybe learn a few things and maybe share some of what you know.
Mitch, so when running makerspaces, I faced with some difficulties right here. The first is I don't really understand. I mean, or it's very hard how to attract people, and I mean people who want to do some side project. Because if at office, it's clear, right? So you're sitting here working, but people like this usually they're not interested in doing something for space. They're not interested in do some open source project. And it's more common for China, and maybe for Shenzhen, because it's a big city, people care about earning money. And I don't know, you have good experience, right? Maybe you can give some advices, or comparing these spaces with another. And just I want to, for myself, want to answer on question how other spaces, how they organize that people come to this place and spend their free time. Actually, they just do something for free, for community, for open source, something, right? Not sitting on your computer and not doing jobs. I don't understand how other places attract such people.
Well, it seems like you do a pretty good job at attracting people.
It's not enough. I mean, yes. I mean, I have my own theory. There's some guy from Raphael from Shenzhen DIY, right? Yeah. Oh, sorry. So my personal opinion, there's only one makerspace in Shenzhen. It's Shenzhen DIY. I mean, like according to Western standard. But if you compare, for example, our space is there, they have meeting one per week, and they're not working here. So they just use it for discussion, for some presentation, for free time. So all of them have job in other places. They work at home or something like this. So we, for example, we work here, and they have a lot of open source projects, a lot of side projects, which according to Western standard, you can call them makerspace. So, for example, we work here. Comparing to them, we have very few open source projects and something which you can say side project. Yeah, but we're on the middle between like the true makerspace and something fully commercial one, right? And I just personally feel that we need to move a little bit to Shenzhen DIY side, but keep our feature that we work here every day.
Great, do it.
Yeah, but I mean, it's hard.
I know how.
Well, hold on a sec. So you're trying to define yourself in certain categories. It's not so much, this is a hackerspace. It's not defined by Western terms or whatever. I'm not sure what you were even thinking when you say that. So what kind of community do you want to be a part of and spend a lot of time with? This is the thing to think about. And put that word out there, articulate it, grab other people who are into that, and that'll attract more people who are into that, which makes it stronger to put that word out further, which attracts more people into it. And you'll create a space with its own culture that's unique to this. And if it's, you're saying too commercial or more open source, that's part of the culture you want. So put that out there and make sure that those are the people you're attracting. You're doing all the right things. You've only been around 3 months, right? So you've got workshops coming up that are lined up. I've seen on your WeChat group, and you've got events coming in with people giving presentations like tonight.
Yeah, I hope it's only beginning, but
Yeah.
I'll give you
I
another.
mean, you say like you need own define the rule. Yes, I agree. There are no like standard. I not try to define us as something. I mean, it's not the question here, but the probably if for commercial places there are no community here. I mean, somehow because of some reason the community not cannot live in commercial spaces.
Yeah, well, Jonas was about to say something, so why don't you?
Yeah, I think if we fired all the engineers, some of them would actually do something fun, because engineers like doing things. They are children who still play, and give them time. Some of them will play, and the other ones will, I don't know, become work in a bank or something because they like working in corporate things. But engineers like to make things, so you give them time, you give them place, you feed them, amazing things can happen, right? The people who come to Shenzhen DIY, they're working full time, like you say, they're very driven, and so they have time, they spend the time for this because they like it so much. And maybe the job is so boring they have to go and do the fun stuff somewhere else, right? But there's a combination of these things, right? I would say host a lot of meetings in the evenings. Give classes about electronics or whatever. Show your project. Have a show and tell day where you talk about stuff you do, and make sure yourself do things except working here. If you're only working here and you expect everyone else to be community, it doesn't happen.
I agree exactly, but I mean, it's also hard to. I mean, there are no boss, right? So I mean, I can't say and other people like, don't work only your job. Please do something for. I mean, it's not work.
No, that's not a effective way of
course
doing something positive, but by example. So
Show by example, yeah. Do it yourself.
Yeah. So like at Noisebridge, we found as we spent a year talking about what we wanted, because there were very few examples back then of what to draw from, and San Francisco is very expensive, so we were getting together. We wanted, like, what kind of organizational structure should we have? Should we be for-profit? Should we be non-profit? We decided non-profit. What kind of non-profit? Should it be a club? Should it be with members? Should it be with a board of directors that told everyone else what to do? Should it be with no board of directors and the members just decide? All these different possibilities. Should we be a church? I mean, we even looked at that as a possibility. And like, how do we vote? How do we make, seriously, there's advantages and disadvantages in the United States for being a religious organization. And we could have, you know, just like in Sweden, they came up with a church of Control-C, Control-V. So, anyways, after a year of talking, after about a half a year of talking about this, we saw that the meetings went from first from 2 people, me and Jake, and then from about 13 people after about 3 weeks to about 54 people at the max after about 3 months. And we just kept growing out of spaces, and it grew huge, and people are really excited. But as we're talking more and more about organization and legal structures and all these, we went down to 15 again, right? Because we don't want to hack law at Hackerspaces. At least we didn't have any people who wanted to do that. We wanted to hack the planet. So those 15 people, though, were hardcore, and these are the 15 people who helped create Noisebridge, like the core group, along with the help of like 100 some other people. But after we saw that the group was kind of shrinking and we were not having a lot of enthusiasm anymore, after talking and talking and talking, we wanted to do. So we started having a workshop, and the first workshop was making a brain machine, and that was this huge project that we had space for a lot of people, and a lot of people came, and it was super exciting. And then the members, the number of people who showed up for our weekly meetings grew again. So we decided to have weekly workshops, even before we had our space. And that started what I started to call Circuit Hacking Monday. And at Noisebridge, we've been teaching soldering every Monday since before we had a space back in 2007. and it's our most popular thing. And it's for people who've never made anything to come together and learn how to solder, learn a little bit of electronics, and for people who do know something or maybe more, maybe a lot, to come and help each other with any projects they have and to help each other learn electronics. Similar things started happening after we had our space with sewing and then various kind of craft projects. And now at Noisebridge, we've been around 10 years. We just had our 10-year anniversary, and it was, we have classes and workshops, many every day and every night. But you know, it started just with having one soldering workshop. And so having events, having workshops, that's what builds the energy. You know, people coming together and making and doing things.
So in your case, workshop helped you make community, right? And okay, so you make community, and then how many people after it become member and agree to pay? Because I mean, you also need to think about money, because you need to pay for place.
Yeah, so we have to pay for a place. So the focus isn't the money. The focus is on having the resources you need to keep doing what you're doing, right? So money is one thing that you need, not the thing you need.
Yeah, but
so,
I mean,
right? So everywhere has its advantages and disadvantages. And hardly any hackerspace in the world has failed because of a lack of money. There have been hackerspaces that have failed for failings of community. That's the primary thing, because community is hard work. And it's always going to be hard work. It's not like you put in a bunch of hard work and then it's fun and easy and everything's wonderful from then on and we live in a utopia. No, we're humans. We have big brains. We have drama. We have things that work and things that don't. But if people love the community, then they put in what they need in order to make that work. So having a space and having a well-defined idea of why people are there and what people in the community want are the key things. So it's a physical community with a supportive community for people to explore and do things that people in that community really, really think are important. That's the key. And if you have that, then the other pieces come into place. There are disadvantages and advantages everywhere. But if the community has come together, then you take the advantages to overcome the disadvantages. Some places like San Francisco are super, super, super expensive. Okay, so we have a space, Noisebridge, which is a little less than 500 square meters, and it's $4,400 a month for rent. Okay, and that is super cheap in San Francisco. Super cheap, because it should be about 20 times that cost at market rate, but we lucked out. And we lucked out because we have a whole bunch of people in our community who love the community enough to put the energy in to find a place, and we kept looking and looking, and people found it. And there are a lot of people in our community who are homeless. They have no money and never will. But there are some people who have, you know, Google jobs. But most people don't have much money, but everyone putting in a little bit makes it work. So that's Noisebridge. There are other places like Detroit where things are free. You can get a space for $10 a month that's bigger than Noisebridge's, but hardly anyone in Detroit has money because there's no jobs. But again, they make it work there. They found a place for really cheap, which used to be a place for auto industry, and there were a whole bunch of tools just left there that were abandoned. And they found a whole bunch of other stuff that were free or really cheap out in the neighborhoods. And then there's some people who were still working what's left of the auto industry, and some people had some money. So again, they made it all work. In the United States, it's easier to get people to donate money. In China, in Asia, and in Europe, that's not so much the case. But there are other ways of getting enough of what you need in order to make things work. In Vienna, there's a hackerspace where they make a third of their income selling an energy drink. A third, right? And that's 50 cents each. And other hackerspaces they have free workshops for beginners, and then they charge a little bit for intermediate workshops or classes, and they charge a lot for super advanced ones. Other ones have sort of a mixed co-work space, hackerspace thing where people can pay. There's a large area maybe off to the side where people can pay for a desk, or they can pay a certain amount to use the space as a co-working space, but they have to know that at 6 o'clock there's going to be a workshop where we're going to learn to weld, and there'll be another workshop over there using the table saw. So if they're using it as a co-working space, they probably won't enjoy it after 6 o'clock because there's going to be a lot of noise. Things like that. So anyways, again, using the advantages of what people in the community bring to overcome the disadvantages, that's really the key. And focusing on that, not the money. There's all sorts of ways of getting the money.
So
which is
in
just
your
one
experience, you
resource.
never have problem because of money, right?
Noisebridge never had a problem with money. We're lucky. So the first day of our space, me and 5 people put in all the money. We each put in a fifth, and us 5 people became the first board of Noisebridge. We just took a leap of faith knowing that we'd get paid back. So that was a lot of money. We each put in a few $1,000s, but we put out the word for, if you are ever thinking of donating to Noisebridge, now is the time. And within 24 hours, we had $12,000 donated. And we've never been in debt. And I trained everyone really, really, really well as the first treasurer of Noisebridge for 2 years. I trained everyone really well that if we ever dip below 3 months of operating expenses in the bank, to freak out. And so about once a year, we dip below 3 months of operating expenses, and people freak out. They're saying, "Oh, we're going to go away," and then we have a party. And then we have bands. People in the community have like play violin or cello or rock and roll or jazz or folk music, whatever. So we have people who come and play music. We have people showing off their projects. We have classes and workshops, and we have art on the walls and lots of LEDs, and we make $5,000. We just say, "Come on, it's free." Donation encouraged, and someone's sitting there at the door as people are walking in. They're just smiling. There's a box that says, suggested donation $10. And the person sitting behind the box is just smiling. They're not saying, "Hey, put $10 in there." They're just smiling. "Welcome to Noisebridge." And almost everyone puts $10 in. And we get $5,000. So that happens every year. That works for us. But again, you got to do what works for your community. And it'll work. Because there are a lot of people here who want it to work. Look, everyone's here. Yeah.
The thing about hackerspaces and stuff is you get to choose what your success is. Other spaces rarely will ever say that's a bad hackerspace, if ever. Because you get to choose what your own criteria for success is. If it's a co-working space under the hackerspace name, great. If it's a squat, whatever, so you choose what's correct for you. The other thing to do is increase the diversity of the group. Get the artists involved, get the crafters, get the scientists. Don't make it all about technology. Try some things like that.
Meanwhile, you as the person who's taken on the role of most of the organizing have to encourage people to take on more responsibility. And as that happens now, more people are taking on responsibility, which attracts more people because more cool things are going on. Noisebridge is unique in many ways. One of the ways it's unique is that we started it explicitly as a place with no leader. The leadership just comes about organically. And so whenever there's a project, someone takes on leadership role for that particular project. As long as people respect that person, they would continue to be the leader for that project. When the project is over, there's no need for a leader for that project, so now those people can do other cool things with their time. That's not normally the way things go with most organizations, but that works for us.
So, but okay, you don't have a leader, but do you have some, members, meetups, and you discuss the future, the plans, or something?
always, continually.
So
And,
like every week or what?
yeah, we have a meeting once a week.
So then it's hard to collect people for this meeting.
Sometimes, sometimes not. So, have you read the Hackerspace design patterns?
There's a design pattern.
Hell yeah! It's what started this whole movement. That's why we're here today, is because of the Hackerspace design patterns. In 2007, there was a talk about how to start your own hackerspace, and it was all about the Hackerspace design patterns. So it's all about what has worked and what has not worked well for hackerspaces over the previous almost 2 decades in Germany. They were all small spaces and there weren't all that many, but they collected great information about not only how to what to do and what not to do well in a hackerspace, but what works well and what doesn't work well in community in general. Search for that. It's good reading for everyone who's involved with community. Yeah, and one of the things that they talk about that's worked really well in hackerspaces throughout our history on the planet is have a meeting once a week. So it's a heartbeat. People know they can always come together, even if they don't come. Everyone knows that that meeting is happening once a week, and you can come there and you can talk about something cool, you can talk about something that you don't think is working out, you can propose ideas, you can come there and come up with ideas to brainstorm, whatever. It's different for different kind of groups, but you can also use those as an opportunity for making decisions. Do people want to do this, or would they rather do that, whatever. So that's one of the things that I think is really important. There's a bunch of other things in there which are really great. Read them. Search for that. Hackerspace design pattern. So hackerspaces.org is a website that me and a bunch of people started so that hackerspace people all over the world, whether they're just thinking of starting one, whether they've already started one, or whether they've been around a long time, to help each other. There's a lot of resources here, and the design patterns are listed here. You can also find the PDF of the original talk from 24C3. So 24C3, that was the 24th Chaos Communications Congress, C3, and at that time it was in Berlin, oh, that won't work because that's going to go to Google.
The first match was a YouTube video of building a hackerspace.
Yeah, it's a YouTube video of that.
Yeah, yes. Type 23C.
Yeah,
you have it in your history.
Bing.
No, 23C. It was in your completion. It was the second match.
There it is. So, anyways, read that. It's cool.
Bringing in an expert to give like a workshop. What worked for our space was like starting like an interest group. You just say like, okay, I want to learn about ESP32, want to do a project with it. You just announce it. You say like, hey, I'm a noob at this. I'll do my project. Anybody who wants to also do it, maybe we can go on, the journey together. We meet once a month and we share what we know. And that has worked really well.
So, but you bring up a really good point. It doesn't have to be, to give a workshop, you don't have to be an expert. You just have to be someone who's interested. So I am not an expert at Android at all. I know a lot about Arduino, and I know a lot about microcontrollers. But when Arduino first was becoming popular, when Android was starting to become a thing, people wanted to, and I did, wanted to know how is it possible to run Arduino on an Android phone, and nobody really knew. There were some people who came who knew a lot about Android. There were some people who came who knew a lot about microcontrollers and Arduino, but no one knew enough to make it all happen. But by the end of 3.5 hours, everyone who came who wanted to had their Android phone rooted. And most of the people had Arduino working on the Android phone. It was really fun, and no one was an expert.
So I have another question about community management. Sure. So in community there's some passive people, some active people, some which not clear, right? So what is, best strategy? Spend time to activate passive people, or just try to find more active? More people and some of them they just show they want something.
Yeah. So again, like if you keep having cool events, cool people are going to come.
Yes, but it's new one. But we have some old one, which, for example, working here every day, but they totally passive.
Yeah, but that means that those aren't the people who are going to be doing the work that needs to be done in and of themselves, who need more help. So getting more people in, some of those people are going to stick around, some might be more passive, some more active, some for a while, some will like be really great for a while and then move off. One of the design patterns actually is about these waves of things where things come together and things are growing great for a while, but then people move off, they have kids, they have a job, they have a startup, they move, whatever. Things come together and seemingly fall apart in waves, and that's just part of the cycle of community. Like in Noisebridge, we've been around 10 years, we've seen these waves come and go a few times now. But after you go through this for a while, and after you know that other people go through this, it's unique for every community, but it's not that, oh, everything's falling apart, it's over. It's just natural process for a community. You're just starting now. So there's people like you doing lots of work. You have to make sure, if you want to be a part of this for any length of time, that other people take on responsibilities that you've been putting in, each in their own way. And the hard part for you is going to be letting people do it in their way. Yeah. Because I know that from experience too, for myself.
So, but I mean, in general, just keeping adding new members constantly, it's the key, right?
Yeah, people who fit in, not just numbers. It's quality.
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
much
for
more
sure,
important,
for
right?
sure.
So articulating what your community is about, that everyone in the community agrees, and attracting people who agree with that vision, that makes it stronger, which puts out the word more, which attracts more, right? Those are the people you want. Some of those people are going to be really active in certain ways, some in other ways, some more passive, whatever. Some have more time to put in. That's up to each person. So, but it's up to you to make sure that you're not the only one doing things. You can put in as much time as you want, maybe a little more for a little length of time, but you're going to be so burned out, you're just going to go away and never come back.
I get it.
That happens more than I like myself. But I've almost burned out at Noisebridge and other organizations that I've been a part of. But by this time,
so I mean you own make this mistake, right? Do too many things or what?
Yeah, I've made that mistake. Other people make that. You'll make that mistake. But yeah, hopefully you recover before you don't want to have anything to do with Lab Zero ever again, because this is a cool space. It's a fantastic beginning. Keep it going.
Questions?
Yeah. So this is my first time to hear about MakersPace. So what's the difference between MakersPace and MakersPace?
Nothing.
Nothing?
The name. So the original name was Hackerspace. There's various definitions of the word hacker. You can take an axe and then break things up into little bits. That's hacking, right? In English. And you can also do what we do at Hackerspaces, which is usually not taking an axe and breaking things into little bits, although maybe that happens sometimes. But usually it's the definition that was created by the MIT Model Train Club in 1953, before computers were even a thing. And it was people who got together and build way, way cool model trains, little ones, but very detailed. They loved model trains, but they couldn't buy really, really cool model trains. They had to make their own. And they would use resources that they would find out in the world that weren't intended for model trains. And they used them for model trains, and they made amazing model trains. They saw what worked, what didn't work. They would share that with each other and with other model train clubs. And they called that hacking. And that's what we do now, but not just model trains. Although some hackerspaces have model trains, not many do. We can do that with tech, with computers, we can do that with art, we can do it with biology, we can do it with music, we can do it to ourselves, our communities, and the planet. And we do have to hack the planet. So, but anyways, when the mainstream media in the 1990s started focusing on some usually 13-year-old boys who were breaking into computers when they first started getting connected to each other, and sometimes breaking into computers where they were doing some damage. They called those people hackers. I don't know why, but they did, because that has nothing to do with what we do at Hackerspaces. But when Make Magazine came along and started seeing Hackerspace people like me going to maker fairs, the people who run Maker Fair and Make Magazine decided to call it MakersPace instead, because that was their brand name, and they wanted it to be branded for them, which would give them more attention. Whatever, it's okay. It's still a cool magazine, and maker fairs are still cool, but the original word was Hackerspace. Whatever you call it, it doesn't matter, as long as it's a physical space with a community of people who encourage each other to explore and do cool stuff.
So, do the hackers and MakeSpace really make some products?
Quite often. The idea, though, is to explore and try things just because it's enjoyable.
Projects can be more than products.
Yeah, but if it's a project that other people like, it could turn into a product.
Yeah.
But that's the first step, not the project. The first step. The product isn't the first step. The project is. Exploring is actually way before that, just because it's enjoyable. So, like I was mentioning, drones that came from hackers and hackerspaces in Germany. 3D printers came from NYC Resistor, as well as people helping on the internet all over the world. There's lots and lots and lots of projects that came from hackerspaces that turned into products, and that people make a living from doing something they really love doing. But that first step is exploring, making time, exploring what it is you think is way cool. And if a lot of people are doing that in a space like this, some people are going to come up with ideas that they really love, and some of those are going to be things that other people find meaningful. And if it is, then those are the kind of things that people are willing to pay for. And then you have an idea for a startup that's worthwhile rather than incredibly stupid. Because most startups are incredibly stupid. Almost all of them are incredibly stupid. That's because they're thinking first about how to make money rather than doing something that's meaningful for other people.
So how many makespaces have you been to Shenzhen? What do you think the real makespace or hackspace like you said?
There's this place. There's SZ DIY. Troublemaker is sort of overlapping it. Troublemaker, there's the poster. Yeah, Chaihua has started off more as a hackerspace. They've turned more and more into co-working space, but they've got a lot of events going on with things to do that are really of interest to people in the community. And there's workshops and stuff. Every year I've done a workshop. This is the first year that I haven't. Yeah, so there are all these other spaces that have some elements and whatever. Most of them are really being pushed by investors, which I think is really unfortunate, because it's not about, hackerspaces aren't about making money for investors. Hackerspaces are about making life better for the people who make up the community. And some of those people will find ideas that could be a way to make a living. Some of those might even grow, and then they can find investors if they want to. But if an investor comes wanting to start a hackerspace so that they can believe that, well, this is a place that looks like a Silicon Valley space, and then magic's going to happen, and the next Apple's going to grow from it, and I'll get rich. That's not going to happen. It's absolutely not going to happen. People are going to be put in there being pressured to do something to make money, and they're probably going to go, I don't know, I can start a social network, yeah, it'll be orange, great, or an app, yeah, people make money with apps. What'll it be? I don't know, it'll be green is good, right? This just doesn't work. It's got to be something that's meaningful for the person who does it, And if it's meaningful for the person who does it, like if you came up with a project, it would be meaningful for you, and you have all the experience of your entire life that brought you to the place where you came up with that project. So if it's meaningful for you, it's probably meaningful for the people in your community. If it's in a hackerspace, probably meaningful for others in the hackerspace. And if word goes out and you see that it's actually meaningful for other people around you, that's an opportunity. Yeah.
If I'm in a community where everybody is thinking about making this project, this product, I mean, I wouldn't want to waste time explaining or like sharing my skills to another one. That's a big difference between the whole atmosphere, I think, in a hackerspace. I mean, that's what it's all about. I mean, what are you doing? And everybody's happy to talk about it, to share the skill. And if it's for product and for profit, and yeah, why waste time?
Yeah, and there's a lot of people at Noisebridge who go there to work on their product idea that grew out of a project that they found at Noisebridge. And there's nothing wrong with them continuing to work on it now that it's a product. I've done that with some of my things as well. And I actually get help from people in Noisebridge, which have made my products better as a result. But Noisebridge doesn't exist for that explicitly. It's just Noisebridge becomes a resource that we as hackers can use for our projects. Because everything's a resource, including the hackerspace itself, including the people in it, including ourselves and our experience.